Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital. Welcome to this emergency update while the market is crashing. We'll do a full update right here, and I'll calm you down a little bit. I mean, honestly, the price action is quite severe, and if we take a look at the volume right here, we'll talk about what's causing this as well, by the way. But if you take a look at the volume, it's quite high. I mean, it's as high as we had Friday the 3rd of August. If you compare it to that entire week, like, is it high? Yes, but it's not much higher than the bullish volume last week, right? And ultimately, is the price holding up fine right here? Yes, I think it's a bit of an overreaction right now, what we're seeing in the markets. Where a lot of people are very afraid, and I mean, if you're over leveraged, I understand why you're afraid, right? And this is not easy to see something like this. But I would say, you know, when we talk about the news, which we'll talk about in a moment, and you see the market reaction, like Bitcoin has pulled back into 118.5 thousand. Look, in my Bitcoin video this morning, I said that's a possibility. At some point of time, if we're going to consolidate right here, which we were doing, getting a spike down into 118, 117,000 is a possibility. We still have some fair value gaps there. It's the point of control, so it's a high liquidity zone, so then you can always get a liquidity grab there. And honestly, I mean, we also spoke about the potential of some bad news, and that is what we got, right? I mean, I think Trump gave some sort of a press conference or some sort of an interview, and he spoke about new tariffs on China, right? So that's what's happening right now, right? So some of the things you can see was set to meet Xi in 2 weeks. Xi Jinping, of course, in 2 weeks, but now seems no reason to. Many countermeasures under consideration on China, calculating increased tariffs on Chinese products, will be forced to financially counter China's move, China becoming very hostile. If you remember back in March and April, that caused the market to drop down as well, right? But then you have, and then if you take a look at other markets, right? So if you take a look at the volatility index, a huge spike. Volatility index got up to the levels we last seen the 23rd of June. I think that was when Trump and Elon Musk were fighting. So that's a long time ago, of course, and one other time was the 1st of August, but okay, that's fine. So volatility index is very high. The stock market is actually pushing down quite a bit. I mean, if you take a look at the S&P 500 right here, this is the biggest drop we've seen since also the 1st of August. And then when all of that is happening, we take a look at Bitcoin right here, and Bitcoin is at 119.4 thousand. Bitcoin at this point of time, if we compare it to Monday last week, is still trading about 9% higher. And there's a lot of bidding coming in, right? Because the volume being this high means that there's a lot being sold, but that also means that it's being bought up very early. And Bitcoin is being bought up right now before we hit the significant support level right here between 118 and 117,000. So we still have a major buffer of support and strength to the downside as well. So I'm not worried. The thing is that if you're over leveraged, if you're making the wrong trading decisions, yeah, then you should be worried, right? And what you can see as well is that the Bitcoin dominance right here is still moving up. We also knew that. If you watch my videos, if you watch my Bitcoin video, if you watch my middle of the day market updates, and this is not to tell you I told you so, but like it was always a possibility that this would happen, right? So if you're overexposed right now, then that's and hopefully you're not liquidated, then it's a good thing, right? Because you can learn from it. But the Bitcoin dominance is still moving up. It looks most likely that the Bitcoin dominance is going to move up at least into 60 and 16.5%. So during that period of time, at least we will actually see Bitcoin outperforming altcoins. So in this situation, that probably means that when Bitcoin falls, altcoins will fall a little bit more. Because even though Bitcoin is bought up relatively well right here, I would say it's a little bit more likely, at least if we historically talk about things like this, like if we talk about March and April, historically, like the first push, if there's a lot of volume behind that, usually we continue a little bit lower. So just to be on the safe side, that's also what I'm going to tell you. I think it's most likely that we will push down a little bit lower, but everything around the price action right now actually makes me relieved. All right, so I think it's most likely we'll push down into 117.5, maybe spike down a little bit lower into 116,000, where we have the 90-day rolling VWAP in the previous month POC. But unless we see major escalation, like if China all of a sudden threatens Taiwan, for example, I'm just naming something here, right? I mean, this is not a political video, but if something like that happens, so severe escalation, like then we could drop down lower, right? So it's always a possibility, but given the current circumstances, given the current news, I think it's most likely that next week, Monday, Tuesday, new negotiations have been started, right? So things can change really quickly. And I would say this move down is more of an opportunity rather than a real crash. But those are my thoughts for now. Now, when we're talking about altcoins, like I said, there's not a lot of altcoins holding up well. Aptos is holding up fairly well. BitTensor is holding up very well, which, by the way, we were able to catch a trade on earlier in the Signal group. So that was nice on a day like today, right? To get some nice profits with that, and then get a crash. But BitTensor is still holding up very, very well. So that's very interesting. Near is holding up very well. So that's interesting. Litecoin is holding up very well. So that's interesting. What coin did I name at the start? Aptos. Yeah, so Aptos was obviously very strong last week. Also holding up fine, actually getting towards some very interesting levels right here. So yeah, I mean, stay focused, stay cautious regarding the markets right now. And then stay focused on the coins that are performing well under this bearish pressure, and potentially long those when you think Bitcoin has found a bottom. That's the best thing to do right now. So hopefully, like I said, you're not liquidated, and I can actually wish you a great weekend. But that's it for now. That's my emergency update. That's what I think you need to know regarding Bitcoin. That's what I think you need to know regarding general altcoins. And those are some altcoins there at the end that I think are holding up relatively well. But those are my thoughts. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care, and I will see you hopefully in my next videos. Bye.